Well, thank you, Fred, and thank you to all for the invitation to come back, to return home. And this clearly is one of those homes. I think as you get older, not that I'm old, but as you get older, we tend to have lots of homes. I don't know if you noticed that, but there's several places that become home in your lives at one time or another. And Edgewood is and always will be a home for me. And whenever I get here, it's like coming home. So thanks for the invitation. And thanks for the opportunity to speak. I loved what Jane did, and I would love to do that, which is to remember and retell the stories, because it's the stories that remind us about the why, about why this place works, what is the magic and the mystery of Edgewood. And I certainly have hundreds of stories, and I know you do too, and we'd be here all night if we all told our stories. But they are the powerful way that the Spirit expresses what is truly miraculous about a place like Edgewood. So we don't want to miss that. I don't also want to miss the fact that Edgewood is turning 65, which is a fairly remarkable achievement, so congratulations to her. You know, when you turn 65 in our culture, it tends to be one of those times where you sit down and say, well, is it time to retire? You know, the kids have come long enough. Maybe it's time I spend some time traveling and going to see the kids. And, you know, maybe that's kind of a foreshadowing of the future. That maybe Edgewood's calling will be more to go see the kids as opposed to the kids coming here. Who knows? Sometimes when we turn 65, we think about the fact that our place is getting pretty big and it's kind of rambling and there's a lot to take care of, and can we manage this place any longer? And maybe it's time to turn it over to the young folks or to the neighbors or to anybody that will take it. And that's a question. We know that's a question. Can we sustain what we have, what we've loved? Can we possibly find a future that will be the kind of future that we can afford and that can contribute to our lives together? So these are the questions that 65-year-olds ask of themselves and their family. And so we find ourselves at this anniversary asking these very same things. So you might guess that I didn't fly all the way out here from Calgary just to make the suggestion that we sell Edgewood. Well, at least they didn't invite me to say that. At least Fred didn't tell me to say that. I do want to point out tonight why I think Edgewood is important. But first, I think I need to tell you how I got here, and why I stayed, and why I wanted to come tonight. My story is rather simple. I didn't have any connection to the Lutheran Church. I didn't have any connection to the church, really. I mean, I was raised, as I say, rather loosely in the United Church. I was confirmed in the United Church, and that was a 6 months grueling experience, 3 months volleyball, 3 months basketball. And then we were confirmed, basically. So I did well in confirmation. But I had no interest in staying around the church, and I didn't until it was the summer of 1972, and I was just turned 16, and I was, I guess you know how old I am now, don't you? A friend of mine, a good friend of mine, was going to an interview at a church in Hamilton. And he was going to an interview because he was wanting to see if he could get a job at this summer camp near Eden Mills. And I thought, Eden Mills, I don't even know where that is. And so he's telling me a little bit about it, and I said, you know, I'm going to tag along. We were both leaders at the YMCA in Burlington, where I grew up, and I already had a job there that summer, but I thought, well, I'll tag along. It sounds like fun. It was getting out of the house for the summer and, you know, going somewhere different. And I had no clue of what it was or who was running the camp or anything. I just tagged along and see if I could get an interview. Theron Kramer was the director at the time, and he was doing the interview, so my friend had the interview, and then Theron came out and said, come in and we'll interview you too. So we had the interview. I don't remember much of the interview, except Theron's poignant theological question to me, which is, would you call yourself a Christian? And I paused for a minute in all of my wisdom, thinking about volleyball and basketball and all my other training. And I said, well, you know, I think I'm a Christian. I'm not sure if I believe in this Jesus, but I think I'm a Christian. And Theron had this weird look in his face. I had no idea why, but quite miraculously, I didn't get the job that week. And that was fine with me because I went back to the Y. But about 2 days before training week was supposed to start that summer, I got a call from Theron Kramer. And he said, Don, it's Theron from the camp. You interviewed for a position, and we just had one of our male counselors drop out. So we were wondering if you'd be interested in taking the position. Well, here I am, this kid from Burlington that has no real interest in, church or don't even know anything about the camp. And I'm standing there at the phone, and for some reason, I said, sure, I'd love to do that, having no idea what I was saying yes to. And I'll never forget, my dad drove me up Guelph Line to the camp, and that first time, because I'd never seen the camp, and I'm driving down the road here, and I'm coming up to the pillars, which are still there. The crosses are gone, but the crosses were there then, those big white crosses, and I felt like I was going into a monastery. And so I'm coming in, and I'm getting more and more concerned, and I had no idea what Lutheran was. I didn't know what a Lutheran was, I had some vague idea that it was sort of a Lutheran cult, or a German cult of some sort. Whereas later I would move to Kitchener-Waterloo and find out that that was true. Anyway, so I get to camp, and the rest, as they say, is history. It was a remarkable experience for me. And for me, what Edgewood did was introduce me to the experience of God. I heard enough about God, but I had never been introduced to the experience of God. I never could have imagined, as that 16-year-old long-haired kid, that I would ever even consider going to seminary or to serving in the church. But it was because of experiencing God in the ways that I did and encountering a kind of community that was so embracing of others and differences, so encouraging of relationships, so challenging to one's worldview, that my life changed because of a phone call or a tagging along for an interview. I want to share just a few pictures of my experience. I remember a swimming contest. It was a race in the pond, which, if you've ever tried to swim in the pond, well, you probably haven't, because even the canoes don't like to go in there. At least not in the 70s, they didn't. But there was this fabulous picture. We had a swimming race in the pond, and there was 3 of them. I know, Jeff, you were one of them, dressed up as a dog, I believe, that morning. And there's this marvelous picture of them going in. It was before breakfast, and so the mist was still on the pond, and there's these 3 folks swimming out into the pond, just seeing their arms and the sludge pouring over their heads. I remember late nights in the staff kitchen, which was in about over there where the washrooms are now, and being introduced to all the world's great music, with the lights out and the candles on. I remember my first communion. I'd never really communed the way we commune. And we were standing in a circle around the stone altar in the chapel outside. And I remember being mesmerized as the celebrant of the day, who I don't remember who it was, as they took real bread and they told the story and simply broke the bread. And I was amazed to watch it being passed from one to another until it got to me. And then again the same, they took real wine, pouring it into a real cup and passing it around the circle. And I communed as if I was tasting God for the first time. Before the billion-dollar Survivor television empire, we had Home in the Woods. And that was a remarkable experience, especially if you're a counselor. It was kind of like Survivor. Right? I remember the late-night conversations around the fire up on the cliffs, when you'd stare into the fire and you'd speak the most poignant things until someone started laughing, and then you just couldn't stop laughing.